Hello, welcome to DISC, Connecting People and Building Relationships. My name is Michael McCleave. I'm the Associate Director for Leadership at James Madison University. I've been studying leadership and the skills that help college students become better leaders for about 30 years now. And I am really excited to bring you some of the most valuable and important information you can learn as a leader. In all of my years of studying leadership, there is one thing I am absolutely certain about, and that is leadership does not happen flying solo. It requires other people. It requires you to connect with other people and to build relationships with them so together you can make the world a better place. In this brief presentation, I'm going to share with you some powerful tools for making those connections and building those relationships. To illustrate why I say this, let me tell you the story of Sharon. Sharon is a student at James Madison University who also happens to work a part-time job in a retirement community as a cook. In her own words, Sharon was having difficulty getting along with certain coworkers and couldn't figure out how to communicate with them better. In short, Sharon was hoping to have better influence with her coworkers and have better relationships, so that would be a more productive work environment. Fortunately, one of her professors invited the Student Leadership Center at James Madison University to come to class and talk to them about the DISC model of human behavior. Sharon learned about both the motor and the compass and the impact each of them has on our personalities. She learned about the 4 personality styles, as well as about the way our personalities impact the way we communicate with others. In less than 48 hours after class, Sharon had emailed the professor and shared this with her. The DISC presentation inspired me to focus on my communication skills with people who have different personality styles than me. It was very impactful to me, and I thank you for having taken the time to go over this with our class. Sharon's life in her job as a cook changed for the better because she learned more about personalities, the way her own personality shows up, and how understanding more about others' personalities can positively impact the way you connect with them, communicate with them, and develop stronger relationships with them. I've been a personal witness to many, many real-life stories just like Sharon's, and it's because of them and because of my own personal experience applying this knowledge and information that I'm thrilled to share with you today that I know you can become a better leader. And I know that this is one of the most impactful ways that you can do that. In short, what I want to share with you today is by watching this video, you're going to be able to explain the differences between the motor of our personalities, as defined by the DISC model of human behavior, and the compass of our personalities. That's going to help you also come to understand the 4 styles of personalities. And before I'm done, I'm hoping that you'll know why all of that matters. So to get into this content, let's start with a very short, about a 1-minute long video. It shows the contrast in personalities and how they show up really, really early in our lives. In fact, this 1-minute video is showing 2 one-year-old identical twins and their reaction to something that they're both part of. Watch this video and take a look for the differences that you see between the 2 girls.
Finally.
So one of the first things you might have noticed about those two infants was just how one was more energetic than the other. It was dancing, singing, playing with the beads that she was wearing, very energetic and very expressive. It was really kind of exciting to see how that was going on. And interestingly enough, her sister, on the other hand, was just kind of looking, watching, checking on what her sister was doing, was much more subdued in her energy and was definitely tempered in the way she was approaching things. What's important to understand about this is people have been studying this kind of behavior and how it demonstrates our personalities for a very, very long time. William Marston was one of the first to notice this energy difference that you saw between these two. Now, who was William Marston? Well, Marston studied psychology back at Harvard in 1921, and he noted this energy distinction between people. Today, we call this energy distinction the motor. It's essentially all about some people being outgoing and faster paced. Some people are more reserved and slower paced. The differences here is, what's your energy like? How fast do you move? The speed at which you engage in the world around you. And certainly your decision-making, not just capabilities, but how quick are you to make decisions? Do you gather more information and ask lots of questions before you make that decision? Or do you go with your gut and make a quick decision and take action right away? That's the motor part of our personalities. And it was something that Marston noticed. Now, along with this video, you should receive a handout, a PDF, where you can fill in some information. Let me share with you what I'm hoping you'll fill in right now. So pull out that PDF that talks about the power of personality, and you'll notice at the top, there's this place for you to type in the words outgoing, faster paced. Now, if you print that handout, of course, you can just handwrite it, but you can type it in because it's a fillable PDF for you. At the bottom there of that graphic in the top of the handout, you'll see where you can type in reserved and slower paced. So that's the motor aspect of our personality. But Marston noticed that there was another part of our personality. He noticed that some people tend to be focused on getting to know others, making connections with people, developing relationships first, and then they go to work and get the job done. Whereas other people start first with the job. They focus on what is it that needs to get done. Let's learn what this task is and how we can do it the absolute best we can and get to work on it, and then we'll develop relationships. What we call that today is the compass. It's this idea of which way do you naturally focus your energy and your attention? Do you focus them first on people or first on the task? What are you most comfortable with? And what's your default mode that you tend to go to? This is that compass aspect. So when you think about this, imagine for a moment that you're in a room with 15 to 20 other people there. What's the first thing that you want to do? Are you all about introducing yourself to someone? Maybe a lot of people that are in the room right away? Or do you want to get to know them and maybe connect and develop some friends? Or are you more of the person that would just kind of slip quietly into the room, kind of lean up against the wall, or maybe even go sit in the corner and just observe what's going on? You want to figure out, why am I here? Why are all these other people here? What's our purpose for gathering here? And how long are we you're going to start kind of thinking about it? And you're much more comfortable about what's the purpose of being in this room with these people. Either way is perfectly fine. It's just that what's the natural inclination that you have? That's the compass part of your personality. Referring to the handout that you have, what you have on the left-hand side is a place over there where you can write in the word task. And on the right-hand side, you can write in the word people. Be sure you take a moment to do that. And then I'm going to move on. So you have a rough idea and a little more insight into understanding both your own personality and the personalities of others. Some are obviously going to be more outgoing. Some will be more reserved. Some will be people-oriented. Some will be task-oriented. You've got this basic understanding of the motor and the compass. And when we bring those two quadrants together, as you've seen in the handout, this is what forms the 4 styles of the personalities. Outgoing, fast-paced, task-oriented, DISC, that's D. Outgoing, people-oriented, that's I. The slower, reserved, but people-oriented are S. And the task-oriented reserved, that's over here in the C. So you've got these 4 styles, but what do they really mean? Let's get into a little bit of description. I'm not going to go really, really deep, but let's get enough overview that you can start understanding what these 4 styles really are. So taking a look at this, you can type into the middle of these quadrants, but to make it visible on the screen, I'm going to put these words outside the quadrants. What I'm talking about here is understanding the D style. Those are individuals who really are determined. They're driven. They're the people that get things done. We call them doers. They're also direct. They are very specific and they don't mince words. When they speak, you usually always know exactly where they stand. Wonderful folks who make stuff happen. Well, when we take a look at an I style person who's not focused on the task, but on the people, but still has that high energy, we're talking about people who are inspiring. They genuinely motivate us to want to do more. They have this ability to influence really, really, really well. They tend to get involved a lot with other people. They like lots of people in their network. They're very, very interactive. These are individuals that have kind of a natural people magnet. People just gravitate towards them. Now, the S style, while people-oriented, they don't have that same high energy. They have much more of a reserved nature. And as a result, what we see in typical behaviors are people who are very, very supportive. They're going to take care of and look after the one and the small groups of people. They're not flittering around the whole room, but they're looking at who needs help, who needs support. How do we bring these people together? They're very, very steady because they're very interested in the status quo. These people are stable. They understand the rules and they like to be sure that everybody knows what they are and that things move along at a very stable, steady pace. They're also very, very sensitive to the individual's needs, both their own and more particularly the needs of others. But what about the C style? Someone who's not focused on people, but is really focused on that task, but is that reserved personality. What's the distinctions here? Well, those with a strong C-style personality are those who are really, really competent. They will take pride in making sure that what they do is being done right. They're very, very cautious. They want to gather a lot of information. They may ask lots of questions. They will also be very, very consistent in what they do, and they're going to be careful as they go about getting things done. These are individuals that like to be organized. They're going to take the time to process and think. Now, here's the interesting thing is we've studied personalities for a very, very, very long time, not just since Marston, but it goes way, way back. You can go all the way back to about 400 BC in ancient Greece and find writings of people who were studying personalities. And what we know from all of this study, and when we started really looking at the science from the 1920s forward, we started realizing that the division of these people among populations is not equal. In fact, generally speaking, 8 to 12% of the population had this strong dominant style of a D, whereas 25 to 30% of the population will have a much more I style, energetic and people-oriented. The S style, focused on people, but with a quieter, reserved approach, looking at the individuals, 30 to 35% of the population will generally have that S style as their dominant style personality. And 20 to 25% of the population will tend to be a C style in their dominant personality. Now, those statistics may not mean a whole lot other than when you think about it, what that really helps you understand as a leader, when you're with a large group of people and you're looking to influence, you will see a small pocket of people who will have that more dominant D driven, let's get it done, make decisions quickly type of people. They can be people you can turn to for making action happen. And you can look across the spectrum of each of these 4 styles and recognize there are people you can turn to for different tasks who will be naturally inclined and capable of doing those things. There are a couple of really critical keys here, and hopefully you've heard in my language something that's very, very important. First of all, First of all, recognize that everyone is a unique blend of all 4 parts. Each one of us have each style of personality within us, to varying degrees, of course. The other critically important thing is, and hopefully you've heard me share, that I've not actually tried to label anyone, because an important thing here is to remember that these are not labels. We try hard not to say, oh, he's a D, or oh, she's an S. The reason why we don't use labels is because as soon as we do, we create a framework in our mind that prejudices our beliefs about that person. And we think if we say that person's a D, we think they're always going to be D. They're always going to be driven and hard hitting and direct with their comments. And you know what? They're a blend of all four personalities. And sometimes they're going to come in with a little more quiet approach. They may be focused on people. They've matured their personality and they understand that people are important too. So we can't expect someone with a specific personality that's dominant in them to always be that way. So we don't label them. The other thing is we don't label ourselves. Sometimes we think if we label ourselves, it's just me, it's no hurt, no harm. Well, actually, if I label myself as a high dominant C and I say I'm a C, the natural thing to follow that is, so get used to it. This is who I am. Deal with it. Well, that's not helpful either because it limits my growth. It prevents other people from engaging with me on a level other than that C style. And the fullness of who I am as a person and my personality cannot be brought to a team or to a project or to an environment where other aspects of who I am really are important. So we don't label. But what we do recognize is these are, in fact, tools that help me connect with others. I want to share with you a little bit about how that happens. But before we do, I'm really kind of interested in you taking a few moments to think about what do you think your unique blend of personality is? When you look at that DISC and those four different kinds of personality, and you have a unique blend of each one, which is the most dominant for you? On the bottom half of your handout, you'll notice there's these bar graphs. It looks like this. And if you are scoring yourself on a scale of 0 to 100, just how much D style do you think you have in you? Now, for example, the way this works in your PDF is you can just click each box. And let's say that you're the type of person that thinks, you know what? I think I'm probably pretty high style in my D. I really get things done fast. I like get competitions. I like to win. I like getting results. So you're clicking pretty high on the scale here. Now, maybe you also think, because you understand people are important and you are energetic, and so you focus on them. So yeah, you're going to click quite a few of those boxes along the I graph line as well. But then you're thinking about S and what you've learned about S so far, and you're thinking, yeah, maybe not so much. Maybe only a little bit of my S. And maybe a little more C, because I am task-oriented. So yeah, a little bit of C. The point is you've got an opportunity in the graph to decide for yourself, because what's important here is to not let others define your personality. You define your personality for yourself. And by the way, if you make a mistake in the handout and clicking something, just click the box again. It'll unclick and go away, and you can set it however you want. But take a moment and fill that out, because in a little while, you're going to have a chance to see a report that's going to give you additional information. And I always think it's helpful for you to have made that decision for yourself first. All right, let's take a look about why is this so important. Understanding personalities is so critically important because it impacts everything that we do. In every way that we engage with the world, our personalities will be impacting what happens and how we go about engaging. Are we quick to move? Do we make decisions really fast? Are we quick to get things done? Or do we want to take our time, gather in all the information, and be sure everyone else is involved too? You see, the way we engage with the world around us is definitely impacted by the personality that we bring and that shows up in the world. Also, our communication with others is impacted by our personality. Are we loud and boisterous and super energetic and using great big huge hand movements? Do we laugh with gusto and just show up big in every space that we're in? Or do we speak quietly, use softer tones, keep our hands maybe close to us, or perhaps not even hardly moving them at all? Do we laugh just lightly at jokes, or maybe even barely crack a smile? And maybe we just kind of keep to ourselves in the spaces in which we show up. The way we communicate with others is impacted by our personality. One more critically important note, though. Do we recognize that we have the power, the ability, the choice to make as to which part of our personality shows up whenever we come to any interaction with someone? Remember that critical key that I said we're a blend of all four personalities? Well, we have the ability to tap into any one of those to engage and connect with others. This is a powerful tool for you as a leader to know that you can make an adjustment. You can change in the moment, not to be deceptive and manipulative, but to make a better connection And as the relationship gets built, you can bring more and more of your genuine, typical dominant personality style, whatever that might be, as that other person comes to understand and trust and relate with you. Let me move back, though, as to how personality impacts to everything that we do. It impacts the way we lead and influence others. Anyone can lead from the strength of their own personality style. Of course, a leader can be strong, driven, outgoing, task-oriented. I'm going to get it done kind of a person with that dominant D style we would see. And most of the time when we think leader, that's what we think of. We think of that type of a personality. But equally powerful leaders can be quiet, soft-spoken, caring, compassionate, deep relationship building people with well-developed S-style personalities. We may not initially think about this approach to influencing others when we hear the word leader, but most will agree that this person can be a powerful leader of influence, especially when we remember the influence of someone like Mother Teresa. So, DISC impacts everything we do. The way we engage with the world, the way we communicate with others, the way we lead and influence. All are affected by our personalities. So, DISC, personalities, they impact everything we do and everything you can be as a leader. And when you come to understand, as you've been introduced to this DISC model of human behavior, understanding the motor and the compass and these 4 styles, what I really hope is that you're beginning to see that your personality is an instrument worth tuning to be pitch perfect and then mastering how to play it for the delight of better connections and deeper relationships with others. Thanks.